Friends, this is a film that speaks softly, not loudly, but directly to the heart. It's a warning that justice isn't given, but must be taken. So, the movie begins with a 65-year-old woman calling out, or rather, searching for, her 10-year-old granddaughter, Manda, in the streets of Dharavi. It's late at night and she hasn't returned home yet. Accompanying her is Leela, a prostitute in the nearby area, Shift Tekdi. The two of them trudge through Dharavi's narrow, filthy streets, searching for Manda. The old woman suffers from arthritis, and walking is a torture. She walks on the area's severe pipe, scanning the area with a flashlight. Leela asks, "Why are we looking for Manda here?" She says, "Manda used to come and go through the pipes here, so she might have fallen somewhere." Well, Ajji is called grandmother in Marathi, and throughout the film, she's referred to as Ajji, so we'll call her that too. It's revealed that Manda went to Leela's house to deliver her blouse, as Ajji is a tailor who sews clothes for women in the neighborhood, and Leela is his regular customer. Ajji's legs are failing, and Leela understands his condition, but Manda is more important at the moment. Ajji searches for Manda among the piles of garbage, when Leela calls out to her. Ajji slowly approaches Leela and finds her sitting near an open sewer, where Manda lies unconscious. Ajji sits beside her and comforts her. An inspector, also alone, arrives at their house to investigate the crime. He gathers all the details about Manda, including where she was coming from. Leela interrupts, saying she was coming to meet him and also revealing she's a prostitute. Ajji says she alters women's clothes and had gone to deliver Leela's blouse. The inspector reprimands them, asking why they sent her so late at night. Ajji listens with her head down. The inspector also reprimands Manda's parents, asking them what they do. Manda's mother replies, "I sell flattened rice on a bicycle." Then, he asks Manda's father, "What do you do?" He replies, "I work in a factory from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. The inspector says, "Both of you are engaged in illegal activities, selling ready-made garments without a municipal license and working in a factory for over 14 hours. In a way, this inspector is trying to find a weak spot in these people's lives to pressure them, and then asks, "How do you know this case is rape?" Then he asks, "Have you had anyone checked?" He deliberately asks such questions despite Manda's condition, harassing them. Then he falls silent for a moment and says, "Show me." Ajji and Manda's mother are shocked. Manda looks helplessly at her mother, wondering what's happening to her. The inspector tells Manda that they have to check, and Manda's mother continues to try to convince him to stop, but he wants to show and explain to Manda's entire family that they will have to endure all this during police proceedings. The inspector moves closer to Manda and examines her private parts, the vulva. This moment is the most difficult and painful for any girl, when a stranger sees her private parts. Ajji then asks, "Find out who the person who raped her was." The inspector tells them, "If I don't even know who it was, who will I catch?" Manda is incapable of giving a statement. Ajji understands that this policeman will not help us. Then on everyone's insistence he asks Manda, "Will you recognize him, Manda?" Manda whispers something in Ajji's ear and Ajji tells that it was a man wearing dark glasses. Just then, Leela, shocked from behind, takes the name of Devale. The inspector becomes alert on hearing Devale's name and Ajji asks Leela, "Who is this Devale?" Everyone asks Manda, "Is it really Devale?" But the inspector says, "Let it be, I will come tomorrow with the doctor." Ajji sternly demands that they catch Dawal before the doctor. But now the inspector reveals his true identity and threatens Ajji, saying, "I'll investigate him, but I'll investigate you as well, because you guys also engage in illegal activities and have a close relationship with a prostitute." He also labels Manda a child prostitute, saying, "Dawal's father is a legislator, so I don't know what will happen to him, but all your work will be ruined, and you'll have to run around the courts for 2 or 3 years. The inspector surrounds them as if he's the culprit, saying, "If Dawal himself comes to your house, don't come to me." This means the inspector is doing his duty, but not the law, but Dawal's. Manda's mother breaks down and says, "Okay, we won't file a complaint." The inspector says, "That's what I was trying to tell you." The doctor doesn't even intervene in a rape case without the police, does his job, and leaves. He then calls Dawal, but he doesn't answer. Leela stands outside the window of their house the entire time, while Manda's mother and father go about their business, as if it were a normal day. Then she approaches Ajji and says, "We shouldn't talk about this anymore." But Ajji is deeply troubled by the inability to do anything for Manda. Leela gestures for Ajji to come outside, but Ajji refuses. In Manda's predicament, Leela insists and calls her outside. Leela leads Ajji to a large banner and gestures, "This is Dawal, the man who raped Manda." Ajji stares at Dawal silently, as if trying to engrave his hideous face in her mind. Leela tells Ajji not to mess with him. "You really won't be able to do anything to him," she continues, admonishing Ajji. But Ajji's gaze remains fixed on Dawal's photo. She just stares at him. Ajji comes home and takes care of Manda, because her parents have to go to work in the morning. This is what fighting poverty is all about. A little while later, she returns to the same banner, cuts out Dawal's photo with scissors, and keeps it with her. The next morning, Ajji and Manda are alone at home. Ajji is feeding Manda some flatbread and asks her if she would like a favor. Then Ajji shows her the same Dawal photo and asks Manda if that was it. Manda falls silent and panics, urinating profusely. Seeing Manda's condition, Ajji goes to an Ayurvedic herbalist and tells her everything, including that she's bleeding. The woman gives Ajji some powder and returns home, where some of her customers have been waiting for her for quite some time. They complain to Ajji that she didn't make their clothes on time. But Ajji convinces everyone that she will. Just then, Manda's mother, seeing the powder packet in Ajji's hand, scolds her, asking if she's lost her mind. But Manda is everything to Ajji. She just wants to end her suffering. A while later, Ajji calls Leela and asks her to do one last favor. Just tell her Dawal's location. Leela understands. But then she says, "The inspector came to me this morning and took all my details, and I'm in my 5th month of pregnancy, so I don't want any trouble." Ajji understands and hangs up. Ajji returns and sits with Manda, asking how she's doing. Manda, slowly gathering courage, tells Ajji the location of Dawal: "Take a right from Lal Bagh, cross the railway tracks, and go to a building under construction." Ajji hears Manda's words and cries profusely, as Manda overheard her when she was asking Leela for Dawal's address. Later that night, Ajji leaves the house under the pretext of delivering clothes to a customer. As she leaves, Ajji's son, Manda's father, arrives from the factory. But seeing Ajji leave, he doesn't speak or ask anything. He's so preoccupied with his own life that he doesn't even care about the recent incident at home, and he's not letting anyone in at midnight. Ajji slowly makes her way through the streets toward the railway tracks. Meanwhile, the inspector has brought a novice doctor to stitch Manda's veins. He also warns Manda's mother not to do anything without consulting him. Manda's mother agrees. Meanwhile, Ajji, walking along a deserted road at midnight, arrives at a construction site. Ajji sees debris and construction material lying around. Ajji slowly, fearfully, moves forward and sees a folding bed where Dawal raped her granddaughter, Manda. Standing there, she begins to imagine the scene, terrified by how Dawal must have done it. She stands there for a while and begins to cry. At least, it's confirmed that Manda's description is correct. Then, Ajji returns to the house where the inspector and doctor had stitched Manda up. Ajji sits next to Manda and sees blood coming out of her private parts. She asks in alarm, "What did you guys do to her?" But Manda's mother doesn't answer and sits next to her to apply ointment to her private parts. In the morning, Ajji feeds Manda the same herbal powder with milk. Then, she tells Manda's mother, "Give me your list of vegetables. I'll bring it today so I can take a walk." Ajji then visits the herbalist. She tells her she has stitches, so please give her something to fix. The woman says, "Come tomorrow. I'll make a paste for you." Ajji then arrives at a mutton shop where the butcher's name is Sharafat. As she sits there without hesitation, Ajji learns that they are longtime acquaintances. Sharafat and Ajji have had a crush on each other since their youth. Ajji and Sharafat are talking when a customer arrives to buy mutton. Ajji, watching the cutting, becomes pensive. She then tells Sharafat that she also wants to cut a mat. Sharafat jokes, "Will she alter the goat now?" Ajji, in a serious mood, says, "It's necessary for me." Sharafat says, "Women are not allowed to do this." Ajji says, "I could die any moment, so teach me." But Sharafat doesn't take her words seriously, fearing Ajji would see it, and he refuses. But Ajji insists she won't leave. She sits there. Back home, Ajji's daughter-in-law is waiting for her, as is Manda. Ajji is sitting at the shop, and Sharafat asks, "Aren't you tired of sitting?" Seeing her stubbornness, he asks her why she wants to do all this. Ajji says she has very little time, but Sharafat doesn't believe it and says there's something wrong. Ajji then tells him, "I don't have enough time, and if you don't let me cut the meat, I'll really die." Sharifat understands that something serious is going on, a matter of life and death. He gets up and closes the shutter. Meanwhile, Manda, frightened from her sleep, wakes up and calls out for Ajji. Just then, Manda's mother arrives and sees that blood is again oozing from the stitched area, which shocks Manda's mother, as the doctor didn't do the stitching properly. Meanwhile, in the shop, Sharifat is teaching Ajji how to cut tender meat, and then tells Ajji to cut it. Ajji hesitates at first, but then, filled with anger, begins chopping the mutton rapidly. Sharifat is perplexed, wondering what the point of this anger is. After leaving the shop, Ajji feeds the mutton she had cut to the dogs. As soon as she returns home, her daughter-in-law yells at her, saying, "You went to that butcher again. Did you feed the dogs?" To feed him meat. But Ajji says nothing and gives Manda some pills to eat. Then she goes back to her sewing. At midnight, Ajji closes the gate and heads for the construction site. From a distance, she sees that someone is there. Ajit, hiding from a distance, sees that it's Dawal, masturbating while watching porn on his phone. After a while, Dawal gets up and goes to the bathroom. Ajji slowly follows him and tries to pick up a stone. But just then, Dawal's pony arrives with a beer bottle. As soon as Dawal arrives, he slaps him and asks where he was all this time. He then tells Dawal that he's brought someone to meet him. Dawal initially refuses, but his pony somehow manages to convince him and takes him to a secluded spot behind a building, where a lady mannequin, often seen outside shops, stands in front of him. Dawal's pony knows his master's lust, and to satisfy it, he's brought a dummy today, saying, "Brother, it won't make a sound, so do whatever you want with it." Dawal is delighted to see it, and playing a Marathi song on his mobile, he performs an obscene dance with the dummy, recording himself. Together, the two sex-hungry men perform the same actions on the dummy as they would when raping a woman. Dawal is drunk, and his lust and brutality have taken over him to such an extent. Ajji stands hidden and watches everything from a distance. Then Ajji leaves for her home. Upon reaching home, Ajji touches Manda, but as soon as Ajji touches her, Manda pulls back in fear. Ajji watches as this monster inflicts terror on an innocent girl, from which it will take years for her to recover. The next morning, Thabale is at home, his wife trying to ward off the evil eye, as if he were a religious man. Arti is being performed in the background. Just then, the same inspector enters his house and says, "I need to talk to you." Dawal rudely tells him to take off his shoes outside. The inspector then tells him, "I'll help you, but first, give me all the details." Because now, the POCSO Act is in effect. If a girl even points a finger at you, you're in jail for 20 years. Dawal says, "She spoke rudely to me beforehand, so I just taught her a lesson by raping her." The inspector says, "For such a small thing," Dawal says she was a cunning girl. "I just taught her a lesson." Just then, Dawal's penis whispers something in Dawal's ear, and Dawal tells him, "My man will check you out because I don't know anything about you. Maybe you're conducting a sting operation on me." The inspector replies, "Why would I do that?" Devale says that let it be friend, if you were in my place you would have done the same. Then Davaleli's pony searches the inspector and under the pretext of checking he is touching every body part of the inspector. Maybe he might be a bit homosexual type. After checking the inspector asks what was the time of rape. Devale tells 10 p.m. and says that if you come at this late hour then this is what will happen. And Devale is openly confessing all these things, i.e. rape in front of his wife. After taking all the details, the inspector says that now I will have to spend double the money in your case because a new law has come out for children. Dawal tells him, "You're taking advantage of me, aren't you?" But the inspector explains that he's handled all of Dawal's rape cases. But this time, the issue is different. It involves a 10-year-old girl. However, Dawal insults the inspector and tells him to leave. But the inspector makes a call as soon as he leaves. Meanwhile, Ajji comes to the herbalist, who gives him a poultice to apply to the wounds on his lower back. Meanwhile, the inspector leaves and calls Dawal's father, who is an MLA. The inspector tells him, "I went to try to convince your son, but he's not cooperating," and says, "This case is taking a lot of effort, so it'll cost 25% more this time." Dawal's father's secretary tells him to finalize the deal for 10%. The inspector objects, but the secretary hangs up without even listening to him. Meanwhile, Ajji is at Sharifat's shop again. Sharifat is teaching Ajji how to dissect a goat's entire body, and then Sharifat asks Ajji to cut off its testicles. Ajji bites it and, filled with anger, begins to think. Perhaps she's planning something. At night, Ajji is cutting vegetables at home. Just then, her son comes home with a plaster cast on his hand. Ajji and Manda's mother ask what happened. He explains that his hand got stuck in the machine and apologizes to both of them. Manda's mother asks, "How long will you be out of work?" Manda's father bows his head, indicating that he's probably been fired for the time being. The family, already shattered by Manda's incident, now faces another crisis of livelihood, which Ajji understandably loses deep thought. A while later, Ajji brings the same ointment and wakes Manda from her sleep, telling her to apply it to her private parts. Manda is initially nervous, or rather, she wants to avoid touching her private parts. But Ajji encourages her, saying, "This ointment will stop the bleeding completely." But Manda replies, "Why stop the bleeding? Aren't I grown up enough? You said, the day I bleed from below, I'll be a grown-up." Hearing Manda say this, Ajji feels like crying, but she tries her best to hold back the tears, because she wants to be vulnerable but doesn't want to show it. The next day, Ajji is back at Sharafat's shop, and this time, he teaches her how to slaughter a chicken. Ajji runs the knife through the chicken's neck, and Sharafat leaves it to writhe in agony. Ajji stands there, watching the writhing chicken as if she wants to see Dawal like that. That night, Ajji comes to Dawal's construction site and secretly sees Dawal lying there, watching adult videos on his mobile phone. Just then, a white car, belonging to Dawal's father, arrives. Dawal stands alert, and as soon as Dawal's father arrives, he immediately begins raining slaps on him without a word. He continues to hit him, and when he's still not satisfied, he throws him to the ground and beats him with his slippers. Dawal's father beats him severely, and then his secretary intervenes and calms him down. Ajji, standing at a distance, observes this man, and she gets the idea that this man is so terrified that even his father is finally angry at his actions. As soon as Dawal's father leaves, he gets up and leaves on his bike with his pony, hoping to vent his anger elsewhere. Ajji watches him go, and today she had come prepared, armed with a knife. She knew Dawal would be alone there. But Ajji's plan goes awry. Leaving the place, Ajji staggers through the streets to Leela, where Leela opens the gate and invites him inside. Upon entering, Ajji sees a girl, a prostitute, who is also with Leela. She is badly injured. Ajji asks Leela if Dawal did this. Leela says she refused, but Dawal forced himself on her and caused this. This means Dawal took out his anger on this prostitute and beat her severely during sex. Ajji says, "This is a rape case, isn't it?" Leela says, "There's no such thing as a rape case in their business." Then, angrily, she says, "A man like Dawal should be killed." Hearing Leela's words, Ajji sits there, thinking. As if he must be so heavy-hearted. How cruel can a man be? In the morning, Ajji is sharpening a knife, seemingly lost in thought. Just then, a voice from behind comes from her daughter-in-law, who asks, "What are you doing here, Ajji?" Then Ajji and her daughter-in-law are sitting on the CV line and talking openly after a long time. Ajji asks about her son's well-being because she has not talked to her son for a long time. Manda's mother tells that now he will take a loan from somewhere and buy his own food stall and says that she is tired of riding the bicycle. That is why now she wants her own shop. Ajji listens to her but does not say anything. Manda's mother then leaves from there. At night, Ajji is altering clothes with her hands, and today after many years, her son i.e. Manda's father is sitting nearby. He's trying to fill out a form with his injured hand. But he can't write, and Manda can't help but notice. Just then, little Manda slowly slides into his lap. The father hasn't had the chance to show his love and affection for his 10-year-old daughter in a long time. He gathers himself, gently pats Manda's head, and begins singing a song about parents who will go to any lengths to protect their children. Truly, nothing could be more painful than knowing that his only daughter, Manda, had been raped just a few days earlier, and the poor man was powerless to do anything. A little while later, Manda is alone in her room, applying a paste given by her grandmother to her private parts. Meanwhile, Ajji is at Leela's house, Shiv Tekri, where Ajji has decided to take revenge on Dawal. Leela applies makeup to Ajji, trying to conceal her age. Ajji has had to disguise herself as a prostitute for Dawal. Leela brings Ajji out, after applying makeup and dressing her in flashy clothes. Ajji tells Leela to leave the city for 2 to 3 months because whether she succeeds or not, these people will definitely come after her. Then she sets off towards her destination. Meanwhile, Dawal is still watching adult videos, which Ajji is secretly watching. Dawal calls his boyfriend, but he doesn't answer the call for a long time. He then leaves. Seeing him leave, Ajji follows him. Dawal first goes to a liquor shop and asks for alcohol. The shopkeeper refuses. Dawal enters the shop, beats him up, and then leaves with a bottle. Ajji watches secretly. Dawal walks ahead, drinking, and Ajji follows him. Dawal continues his drinking and enjoying himself. Just then, Ajji arrives, dressed like a prostitute, and calls out to Dawal for the first time, asking, "What will you give me?" Dawal is drunk. But he still approaches Ajji, leans closer, looks at her face, and asks, "Who are you? And what have you put on this makeup?" Ajji replies, "I'm dark, right? That's why I put it on for heroes like you, so you'll look at me." Ajji is trying to seduce Dawal. But Dawal takes out his lighter, looks at Ajji's face closely, and says, "You're an auntie." Ajji then sweetly tells him, "I've been accumulating experience all these years just for you." But Dawal hears her words, says, "Let it go, I'm not in the mood," and turns and walks away. Ajji calls out, "Don't leave me like that. I can't sleep without you today," and tries to seduce him. Finally, Dawal's mood improves and he says, "Okay, let's go." Ajji gets a little nervous, which shows on her face. Even though she's come prepared today, Dawal is a monster after all. Ajji walks ahead, and Dawal follows. At a certain point, Dawal tells Ajji to stop. He directs her to a nearby vacant plot where a homeless beggar is sleeping by a fire. Dawal threatens her and drives her away. Then, he pins Ajji against the wall, stares at her for a while, says, "Oh, you're an old woman," and starts walking away. Ajji says something to him again, which awakens Dawal's compassion, and he comes over and slaps Ajji. This time, Ajji praises his manhood, saying how hard he is, and invites him to perform oral sex on her. Dawal falls for the trap this time, making Ajji sit down so he can unzip his pants. Ajji quickly sits down, takes a pair of scissors from her polythene bag, and cuts off his testicles. Dawali immediately screams and sits there in agony. But this doesn't soothe Ajji. She takes salt and pours it on the cut area, multiplying his pain. Dawal is now almost unconscious in pain, and Ajji picks up his severed testicles, takes them with her, goes a little distance away, feeds them to the dogs, and Ajji changes her clothes and returns home. Upon returning, she sees that Manda is gone. Ajji panics, wondering if Dawal's men have taken her away. She then goes upstairs to find Manda sleeping between her mother and father. Her parents are now ready to take responsibility for Manda. Ajji still comes down with heavy steps, exhausted. She sits quietly. Here Ajji takes revenge for Manda, and this is the end of Ajji movie. This movie shows the life of the lowest class of the society who do not get any support from anywhere. This movie falls in the gray zone. There are only two sides in this and you have to choose only one, which according to me should be Ajji because at least she could not see the rapist roaming freely. Whatever you think, do write to me in the comments section. Do like the video. I will meet you with some other explanation video. Till then, bye.